Hi, this is Wayne Mansfield. Another in my travel series of where I go to exotic places and taste the best restaurants that I can find. And in the last couple of days I've got a comparison between what is reputed to be Singapore's best steakhouse, that's called Laurie's, and what is fast becoming known as Perth's only steakhouse to go to, which is called Hippo Creek. Now, you would expect that if you were going to a cosmopolitan international city like Singapore, that it would be absolutely the best of the choices. So at Laurie's I went with some good friends of mine, Valerie Ring and Douglas Ong, and we had a great time. They serve a very unusual style, so when the young servers came to the table they suggested to us that the chef would bring the meal to us, so a butt of beef was presented to the side of our table and we could choose how it was cooked, from blue, that's just slightly warmed, rare right through to well done, and we could pick different styles of how the meat was cut. Now, Valerie was a vegetarian, so she wasn't into the meat at all, but Douglas and I, we love our meat. So he had a rare steak, cut very thin, looked absolutely fantastic, and I chose a diamond cut, which was a thick cut, and it was medium rare. Now here's the really interesting stuff. We were served wine with the meal. I chose a bottle of Cape Mentel from my hometown of Margaret River. Very, very expensive in Singapore, over $100 a bottle. And one of the problems of being in a restaurant where the people, the servers, don't drink, they don't know how to serve it. So it needed to be decanted because it wasn't the best example of the Cape Mentel red. And then the servers wanted to keep topping the glass up all the time. But it was okay, palatable on our rating scale. I'd say a 5 out of 10 because it was obviously overpriced and we only had a little glass of it. But Douglas and I shared the bottle, so it was really okay. But getting to the steak. Now, it's a known requirement of a steakhouse that you have really good steak knives because as the meat is cooked rarer, you really do need a sharp knife to do it. On knife number 7, I'm not exaggerating, on knife number 7 was the first time I had a knife that could cut this steak. It was absolutely beautiful, there's nothing wrong with it, just with medium rare, it needs to be cooked, so you need to be able to cut it. Now, compare that to the steakhouse in my hometown, Perth. So this week, a great colleague of mine, Dennis Hall, was in town, and on Thursday evening, which is not known normally as being a busy night in restaurants in Perth, we decided to go to Hippo Creek in Subiaco. Now, Hippo Creek is fast becoming well known in Perth for steaks. It has 2 restaurants, one at the Heroes Boat Harbour and one in Subiaco. Subiaco, for those of you who don't know, is Perth's upmarket suburb. And we got there about 6:30, 6:45, and very uninviting from the outside, but we went in and we said there's 2 of us, and the person that greeted us, who we later understood to be the head chef or the owner, he said, well, we're fully booked and you might have to wait an hour. What I'll do is I'll get the young lady who's looking after everybody, the maitre d', her name is Claire Kelly, that's her across there dressed in red. She'll come across and have a chat to you, see what she can do. So Claire comes across to greet Dennis and I, and she said the best place that I can seat you is at the bar, but we will set it for you. And we said that's fine, we would really like to see what Hippo Creek's about. Now, a table was rapidly set for us at the tall tables near the bar, full setting. Took no time at all, and then the young staff flustered around and made us welcome and explained to us what way the steaks worked and all those sorts of things. So the impressions was really fantastic, and Claire came back and said, how do you like your steak? And these are the ways that it comes. It's more tasty if it's not feedlot selected, all those amazing things. So Dennis selected his, I selected mine, and I'm sure Lauren will put up a picture of my half-eaten steak. It was fantastic. The service was even better, and the steak knives were superb. A bit later in the evening, I said to Claire about my challenge with the steak knives up in Singapore with Laurie's, and I said Meat and Wine in Sydney and Melbourne have a special knife locker where you have your special steak knife and they keep it at the restaurant for you. Now, isn't that client loyalty, special favours for good clients? And she said, oh, we've got one of those too. If you come regularly, you can select your knife and we'll keep it for you. Nobody else will use it. Absolutely amazing. Now, we had wine. I don't really recall other than it was Margaret River Red. One of the really interesting things in the last few days, I'd found out about an iPad app called iHi. And in a noisy restaurant as Hippo Creek was on Thursday night, I tried it, and I've asked young Lauren, who's putting together the video here, to do a screenshot of how we ordered our coffee and our red wine. On iPhone apps, iHi, the Pro version, is absolutely fantastic. So, how do I rate our restaurant adventures? Laurie's in Singapore, reputed to be the best in that magnificent city. I give a 5 out of 10. It was overpriced, $400 for 3 of us. The wine at $100 a bottle, which in Perth would be maybe $25. The staff didn't know about the best way to have steak, and whilst they were embarrassed about finding a knife sharp enough to cut my steak, I am sure that they saw that I was complaining. They kept a happy face, but all in all, really, I wouldn't be recommending anybody who had to have a steak meal to try Laurie's in Singapore. However, Hippo Creek, I'd give a 10 out of 10. On a busy night, they made us feel welcome. The service was superb, which in Perth you might not know. We get transient and visitors being servers in the best restaurants. So Claire Kelly must have been doing a good job because her team were fantastic. So how would I rate Hippo Creek? A must visit. Pretty close to 10 out of 10 for Dennis and I. Amazing steak, and the desserts are to die for. So you have a look at the pictures of that. For the two of us, $165. So it's about 30% less than the meal that we had in Singapore. So a sum up: get the iPhone app, iHi. When in Singapore, maybe another place other than Laurie's to try steak. There's some fabulous restaurants in Singapore which I'll talk about next time. But if you're visiting Perth, either Subiaco or Hillary's Boat Harbour, put on your list of must-do a visit to Hippo Creek and try their steak. It is just extraordinary. Until next time, this is Wayne Mansfield.